What's going on, you guys? It's your boy 3 in this thing, baby. Bro, this deck's so clean with it. Today I'm showcasing you guys my take on Voice's Voice. I've been playing the deck online, but I just got my core IRL not too long ago. I really like the deck. I guess I am a little bit of a pleb because Ritual's my favorite mechanic. I've always loved Ritual summoning in general. Ritual decks were like my go-to back in the day, and Herald's my jam. This deck plays some of my favorite cards, so obviously I love it. I think this deck's engine is really, really insane. It has a lot of lines to insulate the non-engine that matters. It doesn't really play into nib. It has lines to combo underdraw. It plays through low impacts like Emperor and Veiled Mourner extremely well. It has like 9, 10, 11, 12, 15, 18 Ash Baits. The deck's just really, really good. It has great critical mass. My list is a lot cleaner because I felt like it was struggling with breaking boards going second, but the extra deck, I really reworked the toolbox aspect of the extra deck to be able to get me out of binds that I need to get out of. The deck's just really, really clean with it. I think that Voice's Voice is well positioned in this format. There's a lot of hand traps, and this deck can get hand trapped 3 times in on 3 interruptions. With really insane follow-up. This deck's follow-up is actually atrocious. I think it's up there with like Labyrinth and Fire. I think the decks that have the best long game right now are definitely Branded, the Fire deck, Labyrinth, and this deck. As far as like meta relevancy go, I know there's like a lot of decks that can grind, but I think those 4 decks have like the best long game. And I think Fire is like in 4th place for the best long game because like they don't have the best grind, but they can play up to turn 5 if they need to. And being able to play till turn 3 is really all a deck needs right now, this format. This deck's really strong though. It has incredible lines of play. The simplistic and straightforward approach is what kind of caused me to be a little... It just felt like lackluster sometimes where it wasn't like that fun. It is cool that you can put your helmet on and protect the castle. This deck's boards are nigh impregnable. Skull Guardian's a house of a card. Barrier like makes your board. You really don't have to interact with a lot of cards because a lot of cards can't interact with your board. I'm actually one of those crackheads who sets up double barrier. Because like if they find a way to miraculously out the first one, they can't out the second one. And I really don't negate anything unless it threatens my board. It's not like they can access code me. I can just like negate any link they make. SP doesn't even matter anyways. Your stuff can be targeted or destroyed. Like Typhon doesn't really matter anyways. You can just negate his summon. There's just like this deck cuts off a lot of lines and options for breaking boards going second. And with the Omni negates that you get to trade with non-engine to like check talents, and to already be able to play through Emperor Mourner like consistently anyways. The deck's just really, really strong. It's really good. I think it plays through hand traps extremely well. It plays into boards extremely well. It could play into the fire board sometimes without even giving Princess an opportunity to trigger because you can actually set up your targeting protection really early. I think that cuts off quite a few lines. When Princess is not able to activate and not able to target Flamberge, that takes away immense follow-up. And you just have to clear the negates, and like it's really easy. There's like just crazy hands. Like this deck just high rolls extremely well, and I like it a lot. Let's talk about it. So yeah, I would say this is like probably like the second or third best deck. It can be even a rough matchup for Labyrinth, and I'm a Labyrinth main right now, and I think that this deck is a rougher matchup for me than Fire is. This is probably the roughest matchup that I have to worry about. My deck's built already to beat this, but it's nice to also test more with this deck so I can learn the matchup better because I'm a lab main. But the starters are 3 Pros. I hold this card a lot. We'll talk about all the starters once we lay them out. By the way, if you guys have been following the channel for a while, you guys should know this is actually my favorite spell in the game. These pre-preps that I have are the very first ones that were ever printed years and years ago. I still have them to this day. And because it's so nostalgic for me, I'm not getting rid of them. 3 barrier. This is a house of a card. We're going to talk about it in a second. I'm on the Diviner build. I'm very biased. I think that Branded Fusion can beat an Imperm because you can get to engine without playing into Imperm. But however, Diviner is one of my favorite cards. Herald of Perfection is one of my favorite decks. This card is very near and dear and close to my heart. I love the game. I play for fun. I also like to play cards that I like. Do I think that this can beat an Imperm, but Brand Infusion can? Yes, but do I also think I want to summon Typhon and Chaos Angel, SP? Do I want to summon Dark or Light Charmer, climb into Celine, and access code and OTK? I do. So there are a lot of ways where people approach this deck, and I think the composition of the main deck is the most controversial thing with just like how you build it and what you choose to play. This is the rest of the starters. I opted for this build. I actually personally think that Diviner is really strong, especially with like such consistent access to Ceruvis. You have like the 2 Ceruvis, but then you have like Prosp, Pre-Prep, and Barrier, which are like effectively 9 more copies of Ceruvis. So you have like 11 ways into Ceruvis. So like this card's not actually that bad in hand traps. And because there's so much targeting protection, people get really goofy and start ashing this card, which is so incorrect and so bad. You can then just Ritual Summon, tribute this, get low out anyways, which is just not okay. What's also funny is like I've gone into hand trap wars in simplified game states. Like Imperm on Appaloosa, my opponent activates IP, I chain Ghost Ogre to cut the IP off the line. I'm playing into Flamberge, like, which is nothing because I talents took it, and I'm like, oh, well, the board's done. But unfortunately, I have to pass back, and like I'm sitting on a Diviner, and a couple hand traps. I end up nibbing. Nib is actually crazy with Diviner and hand trap wars. Need I mind you? Because you could get hand trapped 2-3 times even going first and just tribute the Diviner. And then like a Diviner effect summon low. Especially if like you had a ritual monster. This is where it gets crazy. Like you could get hand trapped. And like this deck is so good to me because also with Blessing, you can get hand trapped correctly. And like the choke points are there's loopholes now to the choke points that shouldn't be there. So like you can get hand trapped correctly with this deck and still get punished. So like you can like nib, tribute Diviner, summon out low, go low effect, and summon out the place the blessing. And then like you can blessing on your opponent's turn by tributing the low. Or you can just tribute the nib because you nib them. You tribute the nib, and you can summon out like Skull Guardian or Ceruvius, whatever you had in your hand. If you summon Skull Guardian, that's where it gets broken because you go Skull Guardian effect, search, get follow up, like and you essentially turned a Diviner with Skull Guardian access pass on hand traps because you got hand trapped 2-3 times into I get to combo on my opponent's turn, I get to cut them off engine, I get to nib them proactively, and then I get to trip my Diviner, get low, set up the blessing, which is already follow up. On top of that, summon Skull Guardian on my opponent's turn, so like whatever extenders they had get cut off. So it's actually a really clean line. It's another reason why I like Diviner. I'm just pointing out why, because people are like so against Diviner, and it actually is crazy to me. I also play 1-for-1. I love being able to access low without my normal summon. There's a choke point, obviously, which is your normal summon, and 1-for-1 lets you extend past that. I think having the 7 1-card combos is really imperative. Prosp can help you see these better. I like the 1.5 card combo with 1-for-1, but I like the 1-card combos. There's just so many hand traps in the format. This deck has infinite Ash Bait and has Ceruvis access. So the deck just is so good right now, and I just built it to just be able to beat non-engine because I think this deck's engine is just like so insane. Even if I just like summon my house, like which this is just a house of a card, like Skull Guardian is crazy. And I just go Helmet, Protect a Castle, and say, I'm not going to negate anything unless it kills me. Because people are just so foolish. They really do just negate anything these days. People be ashing upstarts. Like, and what the terminology that I created, this is my euphemism. Ashing upstarts just mean negating cards just because you can, not even because they threat you. Like, I like to use my interrupts on engine because the non-engine is not able to trade into my board, play into my board that well with barrier up. So like the only non-engine I'm trying to check off the list is tactics, and I will literally sit there with the Skull Guardian and hold it until talents has the least value. It'll diminish, talents value will diminish marginally and even exponentially the longer that I hold my Guardian, to the point where like it doesn't matter if it resolves, you're not playing off the board. And that's like how you want to play this deck. It's well positioned, it's really strong. I have lines to set up triple Ceruvis. I can triple Ceruvis, Skull Guardian, and not even have to play in the nib. I can do 4 interruptions under Droll and Imperm. Really, really strong deck. Those are the starters. I think it's gas. This card's absolutely broken. It gets ashed all the time. And this card getting ashed is beautiful. Its graveyard effect lets you extend even further. It's really crazy when you already have low and like this gets ashed. And then, okay, I'm just going to banish it, tribute low, summon, do my dance. I actually am a huge advocate of like, even though sometimes I set up barrier and like, put up low, and then tribute another resource to summon Skull Guardian so that this card can't get impermed at all. I also am a huge advocate of going like game 1, because game 2 and 3 I play around Bestials a lot more, but like to tribute low to summon Skull Guardian, because what you're gonna do is make your opponent imperm this, and then you're gonna just low place barrier, and you're gonna get the engine piece that this was missing. The only other times when like it matters more is like when you need a specific card. So like then you would be summoning this and leaving low up so that this can be impermed in the first place. Chain blocking this doesn't matter because like when you get to that point, you've already checked for Ash and they don't have it or they use it already. So that's pretty strong. That's pretty clean. I like that a lot. That's really good. And it matters when you're trying to get to Trap or Blessing. But like honestly, a lot of my lines, I just get to Blessing and I get to Trap on my opponent's turn because Blessing's just broken. I could just Blessing summon on my opponent's turn and literally just re-trigger low and then place Trap. So whenever I'm in a position where I could pick Trap, if I can afford to not Trap right now, because sometimes I have to, like I told you, this deck is struggle going second, playing into established boards. Sometimes I'm playing into boards and I low, and I do have the Trap sin itself for cost and pop 2, because I have to. Like I don't have a choice. Like I couldn't Typhon like effectively, or I couldn't get access to Chaos Angel. I didn't have a Charmer Celine access code line, and I had to. But if I can afford to, I'll just set up Blessings and get into the Trap on my opponent's turn. I do like that this deck plays on the opponent's turn more with Blessing. That's something that I always love about a deck. It's one of my favorite things to do. Is your interactions come at so many different points. They're diversified. You have enough to beat engine and non-engine. You really do have like just a perfect inboard that is always enough. Like the Voiceless cards to me are always enough. Like you couldn't really ask for more. I know you could play like a crazy Melodious build and like a combo and like make Protoss and make Colossus. So like to be honest, like Skull Guardian and triple Ceruvis into an Odd Ice Pendulum Graph or Trap is just like broken. It's more interruptions than your opponent has. And in this format, when you end on your inboard, your opponent already hand looped themselves for 1 or 2, or sometimes they hand loop for 3. So that's what makes this deck's inboard so good, is because you always get hand trapped, you always play through them. So like now your interruptions yield more card economy, and they're more valuable because it's harder for your opponent to trade and play into it with lower resources. So that's my opinion. That's why I play Voiceless Voice the way I play it. I know you could play Super Wallma combo. I'm not stopping you. Hand traps, like non-engine going second cards, 3 nib. It's not that great against Labyrinth. I love Labyrinth. It's literally my favorite deck right now. It's not that great against this deck unless you hand trap them once or twice and force them to play into the nib. I think nib gets better with other hand traps for 2 reasons. Because hand trapping your opponent with low impacts forces them to extend into Nibiru territory. And then the other reason is any of these actually work against Fire King. Because the way I want to hand trap them is I want to cut them off Poplar into Temple. And if I cut them off Poplar into Temple, then I can nib them and feel good about it. Because sometimes and it depends. If you hand trap Fire a certain way, they can telegraph that you have nib. But if you hand trap them in the manner that you're trying to cut them off engine, not without like telegraphing that you're giving away, oh, I have nib. You just have to hand trap them as if you would if you didn't really have nib. Like in a regular circumstance, like Ashing Bonfire and Imperming on Ash are always like correct points. But like if you literally hold your Imperm for the Poplar and then Imperm Poplar to cut them off Temple, they're going to know you have nib. Because why didn't you Imperm the Ash? You know what I mean? So that's where like it can be a little different. There's nuances and niches. I really love Ogre and Imperm right now, personally, as like these are like my favorite hand traps this format. Because they're so exceptionally good playing into boards going second that I honestly want to bump Ogre to 3. Of course, Ogre can hit like the 10 by field spell. It can hit Barrier in the mirror match. What I love about Ogre more is hitting Appaloosa and IP Masquerena and hitting Temple. I think that's broken. I think this card hitting Fire King Island is just disgusting. The card it's increasing in value, and I think it's getting better and better to the point where it's a 3 of in my opinion. It has better applications offensively and defensively and playing in the boards. It's very much like Imperm and Talents. Like, those are going second cards that I think are disgustingly good because they can trade into boards or they can prevent the board. So Imperm and Ogre, in my opinion, are my favorite hand traps. If I open both, I can always Imperm Appaloosa and Ogre the IP Masquerena, which is just insane. And like, what's beautiful about that is they've already played the Talents, which is what makes me want to play more because I'm only on 1 Talents, 1 Call by 1 Magnamu. But I just love that. It's unrealistic to say I want to open Imperm, Ogre, Talents every time, but if I open that 3-card combination with Engine, I FTK the Fireboard. It's actually insane, especially when they end on only Flamberge as their only fire to target with Princess, and I don't have a barrier line to set up to prevent Princess from targeting. I can just Talents take the Flamberge after I Imperm the Appaloosa and Ogre the IP and feel nice with it, and literally cut them off Princess, cut them off follow-up, take their negates, and put them on like hand trap my engine that already beats hand traps. Please do it. So yeah, call by is call by. I like it. It could be a second talent, but call by is also insane. Just target Princess and Grave. It's an FDK. Magnamu is also really broken. It searches Saphira, so it's a hand trap and engine. I love hitting IP Masquerena and Grave even early if I can telegraph an Appaloosa line to play around Nib. This card makes people play into Nib harder. I think the card is an exceptionally strong body. It is ritual fodder as well. It's just so many good things about Magnamu as a hand trap that it's so much better to have this than the third Ogre, third Veiler, or, you know, extra copy of anything. The redundancy was not what I was looking for. I was looking for, like, variation. I love diversifying my interruptions. Diversifying your interruptions for your inboard obviously changes how your opponent approaches this matchup. You have to navigate this board in sequence. You have to approach this inboard and this matchup and pick it apart systematically. If you don't get barrier first, a lot of times you can't touch anything else. For the engine requirements, this card is a house. Absolutely broken card. Search my engine. Negate cards. Huge. For what? I don't know why. I play the OG Ceruvises. I freaking love this card. I was on 3 at one point in time, but I actually bumped it down to 2, and I play Pendulum Graph. I think that this card is just way too accessible as a overpowered 1-up that raises your ceiling exponentially higher. You don't even have to have extra engine for this to be accessible to you, because to be honest, there's times where getting Old Man Ceruvis is like broken for so many different reasons, and this just makes it better because a lot of your cards can access this extremely well. This can search it, but like there's so many other ways to access it. There's literally like some pretty broken lines where you can summon this on your opponent's turn off of Blessing, and you can access it off Blessing. Yeah, really, really crazy. Double Prayer. This card's also really good because of the pressure that applies to the board. Because like it is follow-up. It is a negate that negates the effect, which I respect Branded too much. I respect Labyrinth way too much to not have like an extra negation to have layers. Because like Ceruvis is really good, but where Ceruvis is not good is against Branded and Labyrinth and Melodious. So this card I think it's necessitated. You can absolutely play without it. You can win without it, but it sometimes is a lot harder to not have that extra layer. The follow-up is over the top because this deck's grind game is already broken. Like literally this deck's grind game is cream of the crop. Between like Old Man bounce for cost, Ceruvis bounce for cost, and just having extra fodder for free, and then this card coming back to your hand and grabbing the ritual spell back. Like when you interact with your opponent on their turn, you go +4 every turn if you play right, minimum. That's excluding barrier, excluding blessing, excluding the fact that you can Dynamondo into this card. You can also just literally like, it's crazy. Like you can literally loop your resources, set up for a Skull Guardian and a second one, just a Skull Guardian on your opponent's turn again to go Skull Guardian effect to search so that you can, like you play more on your opponent's turn with blessing. It's really, really good. But just minimum, these are resources that come back. And when you do the triple service combo, it's just like nuts. Like you can, it's crazy how much you can loop your resources. Yeah, the boards are just so clean, so safe. Super Poly can't break it. I love it. It's really, really powerful. My target for Pendulum Graph, I might as well just get it out the way because a lot of people have debates on what's good, what's not. I think it's either this card or Meteor Burst for the Tenpai matchup. Now, if I'm playing against Tenpai and I resolve this card, that means I negated Engine. So I don't really feel like I'm pigeonholed into going in the Meteor Burst, but this is just a safer card for every matchup. It is a spell speed 1 Imperm. It's a 3k body. It helps with crackback because your pressure now is like, you really, really, really do have to break my board because if you don't, I start my turn off with negates every turn, which is why this deck's so good also, is because its follow-up's already like over the top, but like your follow-up also means every turn you're starting off your combo with multiple negations and multiple ways to force and threaten like a lot of cards like SP, IP, Appaloosa. All those cards are in a lot of inboards, and like these cards with barrier up don't care about a majority of that. And like Appaloosa doesn't mean anything to a house of a card like this. So yeah, I use this card, I think, a little bit. I use this more frugally. I'm very, very stingy with my Skull Guardian interactions, but Pendulum Graph, I will use it definitely to check. Even sometimes I'll check like a Prosperity and Ostinato. I'm a lot more frugal with it because like it does give me the extra layer, the extra option, so that this card can guarantee check talents. Because in the Melodious matchup, I am pigeonholed into using Skull Guardian a lot earlier. Your services start to lose more and more value the farther they get into their line, and cutting them off early is always better. And this is one of the few cards that can cut them off early, which is another reason why this card's crazy. Yeah, very broken card. You ritual summon it, it brings this guy out, places itself, gets these two cards back to hand. So you literally go like +3 off this card every turn. Really, really, really good. The last of the engine requirements is Trias Hierarchia. One of the best cards in the deck. This one of gives you like 10 extra lines. This one of lets you play around Bestials. There's a funny line with Almirage into Secure Gardener, where like you can just summon low, link them off an Almirage, Blessing, add back the low, which is just crazy. Go Almirage into Secure Gardener, a Blessing effect, tribute the low, summon out Skull Guardian, chain block. Really, really crazy what you can do. It's a very, 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 very good card. You always wanted to recycle Radiance, and that's what makes this even more perfect. Because in the lab matchup, specifically against builds like mine that are like trap heavy, this card is one of the cards I struggle the most with when I play Labyrinth against this deck. Because I actually really do trade well in the negates, because I just like know what I'm doing with lab. Like I break boards full of negates all the time, but like a card that can pop 2 traps like early is kind of broken, especially because like when I'm cleaning the board up, like I'm always gonna end on back row, and this card's just ridiculous. Especially if it's like pure lab and they're playing like IDPs, punishments. This card you can literally before they end their main phase like pop 2 or 3 of their traps and like they just lose. So yeah, that card's really crazy. This is one of the reasons why this deck has a really good Labyrinth matchup a lot of times. So extra deck, Almirage, Secure Gardener, Anima. People play into this all the time. And this threatens SP more consistently as well. That's why I like playing it. Dynamundo, card's so good. I wish I could play too, but the toolbox esque of this deck is like this. The extra deck is the reason why I'm able to OTK more, because like I don't like not being able to close games with this deck, and I don't like that this deck is not as good as like Fire or Melodious, like when it comes to breaking boards and Branded. It sets up like a really hard to break board itself, even going second, but like it struggles with cleaning up, and like I just want to clean up and then check the cards that match like my resources on follow up. So if I clean up the board and have negates for the follow up, that's just how it's done right now. Both the Charmers, both of these lines, both of these secure lines into Celine. I play Droll and Valor. Droll's in the side right now. I don't feel like very secure maining it. But this allows you to like secure and close out games through multiple hand traps, 3, 4, 5 hand traps, 3, 4, 5 interactions. Yeah, especially when you're setting this lineup when you already have Skull Guardian, it's really hard to lose and really easy to clean the board up. So never regret it. I would always play these. It sucks that like dang near your whole engine's not searchable by this card. That kind of sucks. That kind of hurts. Dark's clean with it. Especially because people have Diabell stars. So like when you are in the fire matchup, you don't even have to have Valor Engrave. It makes it a lot easier to just go like Dark into Celine. And even if you still don't have a spellcaster to bring back off of Celine, which it doesn't matter because this is a spellcaster, so I sound dumb saying that. You just need the extra extender to get into the access code. Card needs to be at 2, but the toolbox is what I'm going for. So everything's like all 1-ofs. It should literally be 15 1-ofs. IP, this card does matter. IP matters. Chaos Angel, the Diviner combo, like if you have Diviner combo and Ceruvis going second, like you trade an Imperm and then summon an unaffected Chaos Angel and like go Burr. You can clean up a lot, and then you can Typhon at the end if you need to. I really don't like Typhoning that much in this deck. It forces me into like Ceruvis, Odd Eyes, Pendulum, Graph Control with the trap. So Arc, Elder, again, and if you have Engine already, you're just dumping the Elder, which is really crazy. Card's broken. And then the last synchro is the Odd Eyes already talked about, and then Typhon, probably the least summoned, but like to be honest, Typhon's one of those cards where like I really would rather have it and not need it than need it and like not have it, because it can be a life or death situation. That's the kind of card that it is. That's just how it's designed. Sometimes you just need it. Typhon's a house of a card, and it helps with cleanup. It does cut off Flamberge. It does cut off Nib. Cuts off a lot of lines by itself. It's a very proactive card. So yeah, this is the deck, you guys. This is where I'm at right now. I think the deck's really clean. I just like, I love how the engine trades so well. I love hitting people with Magnamute. Like honestly, like it's just so gas. Yeah. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I could talk a lot more about like cleaner lines that play through hand traps, playing into boards, established boards. The deck just has so many resources that you can pivot which way in every direction you need it to. The deck is just able to have its way in a lot of scenarios where other decks cannot have their way. And so it really makes this, again, well positioned for the format. From a competitive standpoint, I think that this is like arguably the second best deck, and it's highly representative. It's highly represented. It has a very clean conversion rate and a lot of top cuts in high caliber events. So you definitely should respect it. Learn the matchup. Play it if you want to. God bless you guys. All right. Peace.